The Divisional Cup Finals are this weekend. Today I'll go over my top 10 predictions for the finals, I'll go over all the best teams that qualified, as well as the big names such as Queasy and Merstach and Mongraal and MrSavage that failed to qualify altogether. All of that and way more in the EU review. So listen, I'm keen to get into the predictions today, but before then, let's go through which teams did actually make the finals. So here is the top 10 from the opens round. As you can see, in first place we had Dandapuzo and Uppal. Now this is a relatively new duo, and it has to be said, both of these guys have struggled to find options in recent weeks, even recent months, especially Uppal. I feel like he's been constantly bouncing between teammates. Perhaps they've now stumbled on the winning combination. I mean, these guys do look great on paper, and the statistics back it up too. Uppal had the second most damage in the whole of the opens round. He also had the second most eliminations with 76, only one player having more, and that was Vico on 77. But listen, this could be a fairly promising duo if they do stick together. I'll quickly run down the rest of the leaderboard for you because it's all names that you would expect to see in the Divisional Cup Finals. You've got Akira and Karama in second. Obviously these guys are exceptionally good at the opens rounds, so no shocks there. You've got Synod and Giras in third, Cringe and Volko, and then you've got Vico and Malabuka, a team that haven't been in the greatest form lately, but we all know their quality, so it's no shocks to see them finishing so high here. Ping and Kiro in 6th, Yapko and Panzer in 7th, another team that have been doing great in the opens rounds lately, Vexy and Snosq 8th, and then we've got Chap and Flixie and Ankido and Robin. And before we take a look at the map, let's go over some of the other big teams that qualified. Shark and Teeny and Sky and Scroll, the two previous winners of this season's Divisional Cups, did of course make it, as did Dom and Demus. We also had Kami and Hari qualify, as did Thomas HD and Focus. Focus actually having the most damage in the entire opens round. Chino and Pablo Wingu made it, as did Pink, who is officially back with Haris. I did speculate about a week ago that this duo could have split, as Tayson played the previous Divisional Cup Finals with Haris, but no, it seems like Pink and Haris are back together and they have of course qualified. And perhaps this is unfortunate news for Tayson because he was not able to qualify. He played this tournament with Skavi, but he finished 133rd in the opens round, which just wasn't enough. He is still looking for a new duo. He says he wants to find the next Shark, so we'll see how he goes with that. One other big team that qualified was Seti and Dinas. Now this is obviously a new duo. I think a lot of people were expecting Seti to go and play with Rax, as he had been doing previously, and they had looked really good before. But no, it seems like Seti would prefer to play with Dinas, who is regarded as a top Polish fighter, a very, very good up-and-coming player. Rax and Pix unfortunately couldn't qualify. I'm not sure I see a big future for them as a duo because they haven't been placing that well, but Seti and Dinas are officially in the finals. Now, we do need to discuss the big teams that didn't qualify, including Mongraal and Turtle, Savage and Rezon, and Queasy and Merstach, but we'll do that in a minute. For now, I want to go over my top 10 predictions for the Divisional Cup Finals. In 10th place, I've gone for Pixowski and Seren. Now, this Polish duo has been doing great lately. They actually managed 5th place in the previous Divisional Cup Finals last weekend, and before then they were looking good too. They're in great form, and I see no reason why they can't get a top 10 finish. In 9th place, I've gone for another team that has been impressing me lately, which is Prism and Casper. Now, these are two players that were very quiet during 2025, but clearly duos is their mode because they have looked a lot more comfortable since it's come back. They've been unfortunate in a couple of the previous finals, getting contested. That did happen in the Esports World Cup qualifiers where they got contested in the finals. They were actually second after 2 games in that tournament, but being contested kind of consigned them to a low finish. And I know they're landing at the edge of the map, but at the end of the day, they are uncontested. If you take a look at the map, you can see that the middle areas are incredibly contested. There's so many players landing there, so I do suspect that the winner will come from that edge map area, and I think Prism and Casper will have a good tournament. In 8th place, I've gone for the winners of the opens round, which is Dandapuzo and Uppal. I've already spoken on why I think these guys could be promising. Uppal showing some incredible firepower in the opens rounds. They've got an uncontested area too. Sure, it's not the greatest part of the map, but I think 8th place is a pretty fair finish. In 7th, I've gone for Yapko and Panzer. On paper, this is a brilliant team. They did underperform last week, only managing 16th from uncontested painted palms. I do think they should be able to do better than that this week though, because they do have so much quality and an uncom POI. I think it's looking good for them. In 6th place, I've gone for Vico and Malabuka. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these guys haven't been in the greatest form lately, but that has to stop. They will bounce back. I mean, they are such a top team. They're both great, exceptional players. We saw that Vico had the most eliminations in the Opens round, so he's clearly still explosive. I'm under no doubts that this period of bad form will end soon, and I do believe that this weekend will be the day that they get a good placement. 6th is pretty solid for them. In 5th place, I've gone for Darm and Demus. They actually missed out on the finals last week. I do believe that Darm couldn't play day 1, so Demus had to queue up as a solo, which naturally did affect their chances of qualifying, but they are of course back. They have Clawsy Lodge uncontested. A duo of this quality, I think a top 5 is a very reasonable finish. In 4th place, I've gone for Sky and Scroll. Now, these guys are probably the most informed duo in the world right now. They won the first Divisional Cup 2 weeks ago, managed 6th place last week. Not a bad finish by any means, but I think by the incredible standards they've been setting lately, many people thought they'd do a lot better. The reason why I've got them in 4th and not in the top 3 is because I'm not 100% sure on their drop spot situation. Yes, they do have the north side of Battlewood Boulevard uncontested, but that south side just looks a little bit volatile. You've got Peshka and Kolb, who are a solid team, and there's also Koropiku there too, who is a controversial player. Let's just say a French player that has been accused of cheating. I'm not saying anything, I'm not throwing any accusations around, I'm just saying that there have been rumours. So we'll have to see how that goes for them. In 3rd place, I've gone for Cami and Hari. Now, these guys haven't been uncontested in the previous 2 finals because iDrop and Marius have been landing at Bumpy Bay with them. And honestly, because of this, I feel like we haven't been able to see the best of Cami and Hari. I mean, saying that though, they actually managed the 7th place in the first Divisional Cup. Despite the fact they were contested, they only died once off spawn. So we do know their quality, and I'm under no doubts that they're going to do well in this tournament from Uncon Bumpy Bay. Do I think they're capable of winning? Of course. I just think there's 2 teams that will do slightly better. But if you watch my videos, you know how highly I rate Cami and Hari. Hari especially, I do think he is probably the most underrated player in the world. I rate him that high. Such a great fighter, such a great all-round player. And I think it's criminal how few conversations he's included in regarding the best players in the EU. Really, really good player. 2nd place, I've gone for Chap and Flixie. Now, similarly to the Cami and Hari situation, these guys have been contested over at Classified Canyon in the previous 2 finals, and because of that, we haven't got to see them play at their full potential. Now, since then, they had the off-spawn token against Mumsy and Sato to decide who would keep the drop spot, and of course, Chap and Flixie won that 12-10, so they are now uncontested at Classified Canyon. Mumsy and Sato will now be landing at Painted Palms in future tournaments, but they didn't qualify for this finals anyway. Listen, we all know Chap and Flixie's quality. When they're uncontested, they are going to be one of the strongest teams in the lobby, and I think 2nd place is fair for them. There's just one team that I do think might edge them out, and that is, of course, Shark and Teeny. They won last week, and honestly, there are no indications to say that they won't do it again. They looked so good, winning by 68 points over Thomas HD and Focus in 2nd, with uncontested Wonky Land again for the 3rd week in a row. I just think they're going to go from strength to strength. 2nd in week 1, 1st in week 2, and I think they're going to win it again. Back-to-back wins. It'll be their 4th Divisional Cup win since Globals ended. These guys are just looking so good at the moment. I think they are the team in form, and I do think they're going to win. So there you have it. Those are my predictions. I'll put the full list up on screen for you now. Let me know in the comments whether you agree, whether you disagree, who you think is going to win. I'm always really interested to hear what you guys think. Now, let's go over some of the big teams that actually didn't qualify for the finals, and of course, probably the biggest one being Queasy and Merstach. I did speak in my last video about how these guys have been out of form, but again, just like Vico and Malabuka, they obviously have so much quality about them that they will come back. The worry I have is that Queasy is not enjoying playing high ground at the moment. For whatever reason, it just isn't working out for him in this meta. He has stated that at the moment he prefers playing mid ground, which is very, very uncharacteristic of Queasy. Listen, I said it last week, I don't want to repeat old points, but I will say it again. Queasy has been quiet since Globals, Merstach has been quiet since Globals. It's fair enough. You win, you have that moment. You're not going to want to play the Victory Cups, you're not going to want to play the smaller tournaments after that. It's definitely been a lull for them. I mean, Queasy has just struggled to find a consistent duo. He played with Veno, with Fredoxy, he went over to NA Central to play with Curly, then with Swizzy, none of them really being able to work out, whilst Merstach did take a big break from the game after Globals. So listen, I'll say what I said in the last video, which is that It's not surprising that they're not doing too well right now, but give them a couple of tournaments, let them get a couple of performances under their belt, and I'm sure we'll see them return to what we know they can do. I do think there are legitimate concerns to raise about this team. I'm not feeling as confident in them as I am with a Thomas HD or a Focus, or a Sky and Scroll, or a Sharkantini, but as I say, we just need to have a bit of patience with them. Let's see where they're at come the final Divisional Cup of the season in mid-March. I'm sure they'll have made an improvement by then. And now, of course, we have to discuss Mongraal and Turtle and MrSavage and Rezon, neither of those teams qualifying for the finals. We'll start with MrSavage and Rezon because I do have some reservations about this team. I'm just not sold on them, if I'm being really honest. I feel like these are two players that aren't working at their best right now. Don't get me wrong, they both have undeniable talent. Rezon is just insane. It's just such a good fighter. In chapter 2, I was saying that he was the best fighter for that whole chapter. If you ever watched any of my stuff back then maybe you'll remember. And Savage obviously has so much quality too, but if you don't work as hard as you can, then you're not going to place highly in EU because it is so competitive. And I'll put this clip up of Savage talking a bit about that now.
I'd say Bloodix and Mongraal, like, they were expecting more from me than what I was doing. So it was a bit of a mismatch.
Are you trying to do more or what?
Well, it's very time consuming.
You trying to put more time in or no?
I like getting on when I want to get on.
Okay, and what's your view right now then, you'd say, like on your like for an competitive future? Like is it like more like casual based?
Casual based?
When I say that, I just mean like...
Calm down.
No, but when I say that, I just mean like you're playing comp, you're trying your best, but like you're not doing everything it takes, you know what I mean? No?
I'm about to play 2 scrim games and it's 12 right now.
So as you just heard, Savage isn't 100% locked into grinding, but of course he is still taking Fortnite competitive seriously. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying I feel like both players have a lot of other priorities. You've got Savage, who obviously does his streaming, he has his brands. Rezon, who has recently joined the Wave Boys group. These guys have a lot of reasons not to be locked in, and with teams that work so hard in EU, I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up. So I don't think it's surprising that they've not qualified. Yes, they will make some future Divisional Cup Finals. Yes, they should be able to make some Grand Finals in terms of FNCSs, but I'm not expecting to see them at Globals. But listen, I've spoke very critically about Mongraal and MrSavage splitting in recent videos. I said that it was a big mistake. I felt that they committed to a long-term process. It was never going to happen overnight. The results weren't just going to turn up one day. And quitting after only a month, I felt was a bit of a mistake. They kind of had to just accept that it was going to take time and commit to it. But listen, hearing stuff like this, it's clear that Savage and Mongraal don't quite have the same outlook on the game. Yes, Savage is the better player than Mongraal, but clearly Mongraal wants to work very, very hard at it. And him playing with Turtle probably does work for that because they both have the same goals, the same objectives. They're both coached by BloodX, and that could make a lot of sense. While Savage and Rezon, you've got two players that are, of course, very, very talented, very good at the game, but they also have priorities outside of the game, so they're not playing the game all day long. Listen, maybe these new duos will work. Maybe these new dynamics are going to be more suited for the players, but it didn't work for today because neither of them have made the Divisional Cup Finals. Although in fairness, 61st for MrSavage and Rezon, 72nd for Mongraal and Turtle, they're not a million miles off. Also worth pointing out that Mongraal and Turtle came 55th on NA Central, very narrowly missing out on making the finals, so credit to them for that. I'll go over all the EU teams that made it on NA Central later in the video, but listen, let's be positive about these new teams. I'm sure they're going to do well. Yes, I do have a couple of reservations, but listen, top 20 make the Summit LAN in only a few months' time. That's very doable for both of these teams. Maybe we'll see them manage it. Here's a list of some of the other big teams that didn't qualify. You've got Marius and iDrop, who came 55th. Konbek and Blaha missed out, as did King Cringe and Twy. We also had Wox and Vanya miss out. Again, I've mentioned before, but I just don't get excited by this team for whatever reason. Yes, they're both two great individual players, but it just doesn't feel like a team that's going to stick. I feel like as soon as a better option comes up for either of these guys, they'll probably just take it. We also had Swizzy and Pixie not qualify, having made the last 2 Divisional Cup Finals. Pix and Rax missed out, as I mentioned earlier. We also had Skyjump and Dew not make it, and this was the duo that had been splitting Lethal Labs with Swizzy and Pixie. So they were both having to split in the previous 2 weeks, and then neither of them able to take advantage of the other not qualifying, so there will be a new team over at Lethal Labs. We also have the new team of Trucio and Merstach not qualify. Previously the duo was Trucio and Fochka, and this was a team that I was hugely interested in. I feel like they had huge potential. I definitely had stocks in them, but they have now split. But Fochka and Adrix and Trucio and Merstach are the new duos. Yes, neither of them qualified today, but I do feel like they are some good up and coming Polish talent to watch out for in the future. In terms of the EU teams that qualified to the NA Central Divisional Cup Finals, there were only 4 this week. They were Akira and Karama, who finished 10th, the highest placing team, credit to them. We had iDrop and Marius qualifying 34th, Velo and Zynox in 35th, and Thomas HD and Fredoxy making it in 47th. Fredoxy, a player who has been very, very quiet lately because he was looking so good during Globals. Obviously they won Major 3 FNCS, then looked brilliant at Globals despite being contested. Fredoxy then won the first Divisional Cup of the season with Chino before getting dropped, and since then it's all just kind of gone wrong for him. I don't feel like he's been that locked into the game. I think he's been playing quite a lot of Valorant. But listen, will we see the Fredoxy come back? I do hope so, because I really do rate him as a player, and it's nice to see him qualifying for some tournaments, even if it is on the wrong region. We would prefer to see him on EU. In terms of other teams that nearly made it, Specs and Gonzo, the Norwegian duo, narrowly missing out, 1 point off, coming 51st. Unfortunate for them. Now let's go over some viewer takes. If you want to leave your take in the comment section below, then I will react to it in a video. I'll always give precedence to the YouTube comments, so make sure you put it down there. But these ones did come from TikTok. We had Hansler give his top 3 teams on EU right now. He's put Chino and Pablo Wingu in there, which I don't think is ridiculous at all. We're talking about 2 excellent fighters, and they of course did qualify for the Esports World Cup. However, the previous 2 Divisional Cups haven't been great for them. Yes, I'm aware they've been contested at Sandy Strip, but do I think they are a top 3 duo in EU right now? Maybe not, but they're definitely a top 10 duo, and I mean, the quality they have is undeniable. But it's clear to see that everyone is highly rating Sky and Scroll and Shark and Teeny right now, and this is something that I did predict a couple of months back. I really do feel like one of those teams, if not both of them, will win an FNCS this year. They are just at such a high level. But thank you to both of these guys for leaving takes, and as I said before, if you want to leave your own take in the comment section, then of course I can react to that in the video. Now, let's talk about some other news. We had Twy signed for XP42. This is a new org that have been making a lot of moves in the scene. They signed Moneymaker and Rezex, and they've now added Twy to their roster. Credit to them. We also had an interesting 1v1 the other day that I want to speak about in a little bit of depth, and that was Shark versus Rinzy. So recently, Coach Boop has been doing a lot of tokens over on his Twitch stream. It's been interesting to see some of the best fighters in EU play against each other. Shark, obviously regarded as one of the best fighters on EU, no shocks there, whilst Rinzy is viewed as probably the best creative player on EU in terms of the fact that he can play realistics quite well. Yes, he probably doesn't have the most aesthetically pleasing style, he isn't the most explosive player, but he is very, very difficult to beat. And when Shark went up against Rinzy in a 1v1, it was Rinzy that came out on top, winning 7-5 and then 5-1. And I think that is very interesting to see, because obviously everyone knows how good Shark is. He won the Mike 1v1 tournament, which if you don't know had 32 players enter, and Shark came out on top out of all of them. But Rinzy clearly able to beat Shark. I think it is definitely a case of Shark has his bogey player in terms of the fact that he just can't seem to beat Rinzy no matter what it might be. I do think that Shark is obviously better than Rinzy, but clearly he couldn't get the better of him. Just something interesting that I thought I'd mention. And if you've not heard of Rinzy before, he is actually the brother of Focus, so clearly Fortnite runs in the family. The final piece of news before I end the video is that Flowberry Fizz has returned to the meta. Now, this actually happened the other day in the final game of the EU Divisional Cup, but that was because of the Valentine's Day Power Hour event. Now it is officially back for real, which means we do have a couple of options in terms of movement items. We have the wingsuits in the game, Flowberry Fizz, and of course the Flowberry Grenade, which completely obscures the vision of the player, which I've seen a lot of people complaining about. But listen, I'm glad we have a more diverse movement meta. Don't get me wrong, I really like the wingsuit item. In my opinion, the best movement metas are the ones where we have a really unique, fun and balanced item, similar to the bats from last year, the mist forms too, the void oni mask. But listen, it's always nice to have a little bit of diversity in the loot ball, and I think Flowberry Fizz adds that. It's just a really balanced item and nobody's ever going to complain about it. We will see how that affects the Divisional Cup on Saturday. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, as I make these kind of videos every few days to keep you guys up to date on everything that happens in the EU. If you want to support me any further, then using code SPUDSON in the Fortnite item shop is a great way to do that. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next one.